Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are Ebenezer Church of God outreach program, and this is our mental health awareness series one. We usually hold two series. This is series one. There'll be a continuation to this. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said before, disclaimer that this is all personal opinion. This is not fact. This is not law, I should say. It is. We're talking about the stuff we personally have been through, and of course, we're taking questions. Do log in, share with your friends, and join us. We're happy to have you. We're happy to answer your questions to the best of our capabilities. My name is Shirlene Polo, and I'm the director of the outreach program. Everyone else is going to step in and just introduce themselves. Um, Go ahead, Clavia.
Hi, I'm Mitchell. I'm in outreach at Ebenezer Church of God, and I'm happy to be here.
And Marie.
Hi, everybody. I am Marie Dorisman. I am the Vice President of the Outreach Program, and I'm excited for this forum and what we have to say today.
And our guest speaker, Sister Saundra.
Hello, everyone. I'm Saundra, and I'm part of Ebenezer Outreach as well. And I'm just very happy to be here.
And of course, we're happy to have her. Um, our good Clavia is going to give us a kind of a summary of what's going to go down today and why we even holding this event in general. Go ahead, Clavia.
Hi, I'm not sure if I can see me, but yes. So we're gonna talk about trauma today. Important to talk about trauma because a lot of people deal with trauma throughout the years, throughout the day, and to deal with trauma, you have to go through a lot of difficulties when you go through trauma. We want to talk about overcoming it or how to overcome it and how to become resilient and how to deal with it because when you go through mental health, it's important to learn on how to become resilient. It's a struggle every day. It's an everyday struggle because when you deal with trauma, it could definitely break you down. Especially when you deal with it in your childhood, it could break you down in your adulthood. So when you don't get the proper counseling, when you don't get the proper coping, when you don't have the proper coping skills, when you don't have the proper education and you don't have the proper knowledge of how to deal with trauma, it could have a big effect on your adulthood life, on any life, any childhood, adulthood, any stage of life that you're currently in. So we're gonna just focus on trauma right now for our mental health awareness month. So we brought our lovely sister Saundra, who has a powerful testimony that I have not heard. So this is my first time, hearing her testimony. So, but hearing having her here is my first time hearing it, but um I just want to thank Sister Sandra for coming here to our platform to share her testimony and hearing how she overcome this trauma that she overcame, so she could share how she overcame it, so we could share it with everyone else on how to deal with trauma and how to become resilient, as well as sharing information and resource as well,
Okay.
how you could deal and how to deal with trauma, and what research we also have for you guys to reach out to counselors within the area in Westchester, and other professional mental health counselors you could have that you could reach out to. So, Sis Sandra, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
So, tell us about yourself.
Okay, so before I get into my own story, I just want to talk about how in dealing with mental health awareness, I like the title of it because I'd like to focus on the word awareness. Because although many people experience trauma, my story was that I wasn't even aware that I had any kind of trauma. Um, so, just to give you a little background, I've been teaching for almost 25 years now. And the irony of the whole thing is that what made me aware of my own trauma was working with children that clearly were experiencing trauma, or were seeing counseling for trauma. And that's when I actually made the connection to a lot of the problems that I had growing up. So I don't know, should I just get into it right now, or are we going to do question and answer?
Yeah, absolutely. If you could tell us your story,
Okay.
what happened?
Okay. Well, I would first say that I was unaware of my trauma, like I said, until I started working with children, and then learning about childhood abuse and trauma and so forth. So, in teaching, I learned that there's different types of abuses. There's obviously physical abuse. There's sexual abuse. There's emotional abuse. So in working with the kids, I that's when I started making connection that, oh my gosh, I wasn't like this just insane child growing up. It was trauma that was coming out in my behavior. So just to give you a background, I've experienced like every kind of trauma that there is, that you could think of, every kind of trauma. But the one trauma that I really needed to overcome, and I guess like I'm over it now because I've overcome it now because I actually got it out, because I had suppressed it for a very, very long time. So my story was just to give you the brief version of it. I was actually abducted by a stranger, and it was a pedophile. So that was the very first trauma that I had experienced. And then because of that experience, it happened when on my way to school, while I was in school. So because of that experience, it really changed, I guess, my whole behavior. um Prior to that experience, because it happened in the third grade, prior to that experience, I was just a regular kid, just go happy go lucky, and just doing ordinary regular things. But then after that, after I had experienced that abduction and that abuse, my whole behavior had changed. Now the thing is that it's not like you're abducted and you're missing for a long, long time, because it had happened on the way to school. um no one knew about it. Like, no one had known about it. I didn't tell anyone about it. So what happened was, that year in third grade, I kept on getting a lot of suspensions from school. I was being suspended a lot for fights. Like, I was just like very sensitive, and the sensitivity came out as very aggressive behavior. The teachers, they were always calling my mom. They were asking her, like, did something happen? And of course, my mother didn't know, because I didn't, for personal reason, I didn't feel that I could tell her what happened, because there was a lot of shame there, and a lot of guilt, like I had done something wrong. So basically I just suppressed it. But it came out as a child. Um, at one point in that year in third grade, they had labeled they gave me a diagnosis of learning disabled, and like oppositional defiant. I was suspended so many times for fighting. I was suspended for vandalizing things. um but as a child, like, you don't make that connection. To me, it was just, I was just very sensitive. um so at one point they had decided to switch me by the time I was like in fifth, maybe sixth grade. By the time I got into sixth grade, because I had been suspended so many times and expelled, so they switched me to another school, and that school, it made it a whole lot better. The school had made it a whole lot better. But before going into this to the new school, I had experienced another traumatic experience, but this time at the hand of a babysitter. Someone who was supposed to care for me. So, just to make just if you can imagine, it was a nightmare experience in school. It was a nightmare experience in my home. Um, in my home, it was really, really bad because I had younger siblings, a younger brother and sister, and my aggressive behavior, it was like really bad that they actually had to separate, like my parents didn't feel safe keeping leaving me alone with my younger brother or sister because that's how bad it was. And it wasn't just the fighting and the violence, but other ways that the trauma had expressed itself was I picked up really, really bad habits. Like I was just stealing things for no reason. It's not like I was missing anything. Like my parents provided me whatever everything I needed, but I just picked up some really bad habits. I was cursing a lot, like just using really foul language. So, I mean, if you could imagine, I was a child. I was everyone's worst nightmare, you know.
Mm.
So um, I was the kid where the other parents would say, don't let my child, hang out with her because there's just something wrong with this girl. So for a long time, I carried around that reputation, and then at some point, it's like it just became a part of who I was. I just accepted that's just who I am. I'm bad. And, I just walk around just, punching anybody in the face that says anything that I don't like, and that's just who I am. So that was pretty much for a long, long time. Now, clearly, I'm not the same person. So there had to have been a turning point. So, like I said, the turning point for me, um, in realizing, first of all, that I was dealing with trauma was working with children in the school that had trauma. Because there was one point where I could not ignore my own trauma. If I was working with students and trying to help them process their own traumas and the things that they were going through. And it was kind of like a double edged sword because I had experienced it. And even though I suppressed the memory, what really helped me with that experience was that the students that had experienced similar trauma, immediately I picked it up. I could tell. And I think that was one of the reasons why I was so good working with those students and being able to identify it, because I could tell by their body language and their posture, and even some of the kids that were the most difficult kids in the school building that I work with. I mean, kids that the teachers just did not want in the class. They were very aggressive, very violent, throwing furniture. So when I would spend one-on-one time with them, some of them would open up to me, you know. And then that's when I realized, like, oh my goodness, like this trauma thing, it's not a joke, because you think it's the child is just a very troubled kid, and the child is just violent, the child is just wicked and mean. But but there's a reason, there's something in their mind, or in their past, or something that's causing that behavior. So.
So when you, as you said that you were you had a turning point, that something made you turn, and before you started working with kids, what was your turning point
Okay, so
before you
my
started working with kids?
okay, the turning point before I started working with kids was, I think it's God's grace, of course. I was fortunate enough, I think, when I was in seventh grade, I had a teacher, and it was the first male teacher that I ever had, Mr. Symbolic. I'll never forget him. I had never had a male teacher, and of course, I was always very uncomfortable around males. And this teacher was just very, very different, um, he did not tolerate my behavior, because a lot of the other teachers, they didn't know what to do with me. But this teacher right here, he went toe to toe with me, but not in a very mean way, but in a very loving but firm way. And he just basically said, I don't know why you behave this way, but it's not acceptable. And, you're gonna do your work. You're gonna sit down. You're gonna do this. So, and he spoke to me, like a father would speak to a child. And it was in seventh grade. It was because of one teacher that made a difference, and it was the first male teacher I ever had. So that was a turning point that really changed my attitude. Um, that made me started valuing myself, because I had a lot of very low self-esteem. And I remember this teacher, he was always talking to me saying, like, you're very bright, like, the work that you're putting out, I know you can do a whole lot better, so, and, he spoke to me an awful lot. And I think that was the turning point. So ever since then, because prior to that, like I said, because of my behavior, I was intolerable. And, I don't blame the adults, because because I work with kids that way, and I can see how, a child being very stubborn and, just behaving the way that I was, how he could form an opinion. But the teacher didn't care. It's like he just didn't care. He says, I know you can do a whole lot better. So one person can make a whole different, it can turn the whole thing around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what is the word resilience to you? From your experience, what you went through, what does the word of resilience means to you?
Um, it means a couple of things, because resilience doesn't mean that you're not going to have points where you don't break down. Because trust me, even though I had my turning point in seventh grade, it it was still, there was still a long road ahead. Like I said, I didn't really completely heal from it until my adult life, until I was like in my 20s. That's when I really, really, I felt that I really had dealt with it. Resilience to me just means that, in spite of the emotions, in spite of your setbacks, in spite of what you're feeling, resilience just means that you come back from it somehow. Somehow, by God's grace, you're able to come back from the lowest point that you could feel. You know.
Okay. So, if for those who are experienced so much, like if so much that they're experienced, because trauma is a lot. It's a
Mm.
lot to unfold, right? You could agree that it's a lot to tackle within the time that we have to tackle, and of course, which is so unfortunate. But if you could go back and tell yourself something, anything, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself that, to be more open, to trust those that love me. Because when you experience certain types of abuse, and you're going through certain types of trauma, your mind is not really thinking logically or rationally. You're more concerned. For me, I was more concerned about, okay, I did something really, really wrong, and I don't want people to judge me, and I was feeling bad about myself. So if I could say something to myself, I would just basically say to trust those that love you, just to trust, because trust makes a whole lot of difference. To trust those, around you that love you, and ask for help. And if you don't get the help the first time, just keep asking for help, just until somebody listens. Because sometimes I feel a lot of the kids, even the kids that I work with, I feel like they feel the same way. Like, no one will really listen. Nobody will really care, you know, like they just need you know, just one person that will, that will make everything click, that people do care.
I'm happy you said this. I'm happy that you said that because mental health is like really, really a big thing right now. And a
Mm.
lot of people feel like, it's taboo, like, especially in our culture. Haitians, they feel like, no, you have to, like, what happens in the house stays in the house. You know, keep it all in. Go to God. Pray on it. They, don't talk to people. Keep, if you have something going on, talk to God about it. So what you're saying, talk to someone, reach out to someone. So with your experience, what you went through, you know, would you also encourage others to go get the help that they need, to reach out to counseling?
Definitely, definitely. I feel like I was very, very, very fortunate that my life didn't take on a direction, because it could have went terribly wrong. Because when I tell you my behavior was like completely unacceptable, and I would get in, so not just in school but out of school as well. I thank God that I was never arrested for any of my behavior, but definitely, definitely, you have to definitely have to seek help. You definitely have to talk to someone. I don't advise anyone to keep trauma inside of themselves, because it'll come out. As much as you try to
Absolutely.
suppress it, it will come out in one
It will
form or
always.
another.
Hmm.
It
It will
always.
always come out no matter what. That's why I want to encourage everyone who is dealing with any trauma that you're dealing with. The most important thing is coping skills.
Yeah,
Learn what coping skills, any coping mechanism is best for you. Even if it's taking a shower, taking a walk, listening to music, exercising, um, even if it's what is it, running, writing, singing, going to church, yelling, whatever coping mechanism works for you, that is the best release, self release, as well as counseling. Those two are very important to get self release. Suppressing it is not going to help, it's just going to make it worse. You can never escape trauma. Trauma is always going to come back. It's
mhm.
gonna only gonna you can only suppress it for so long. And Saundra, do you agree?
uh,
You can
I
only
def-
suppress it for so long. It's
I
gonna
def-
come back.
oh, I definitely agree, because even when I was in my adulthood and I thought it was over and I'm done because it was a long time ago, um, until I told my story, there was no closure. Because
Correct.
even if something happened a long, long time ago, like it's always still in the back of your mind. It's in your
And it's a defense mechanism, and it's a good defense defense mechanism, and it's your self conscience it's your self conscious trying to protect yourself
Yeah,
from dealing with the trauma.
yeah,
And it's you protecting yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's really your brain protecting yourself from dealing with it.
yeah. Because it's I call it self deception also. Like you're deceiving
Mhm.
yourself, because you could be living a completely perfectly normal life. You could get married. You can end up having children. Wonderful
Mhm.
career, um, and you think everything is fine, and then I mean, I don't know what would trigger it, for some people, but I know with me, the reason why I knew that I had not really, really dealt with it, even though in my mind I thought I did, was I had experienced not an adult trauma, but I guess it was traumatic also. I had experienced a miscarriage, and that was traumatic in itself, but it's not like anyone had done anything to me or whatever. But at that moment, it's like the flood of everything came back. I felt like everything that happened my entire life, like just flashed before my eyes, and this was like the culmination of it. And then I actually attempted, suicide. And it was only in speaking with my family, and because they couldn't understand why it hit me so hard. And then that was when I
Mhm.
realized that I had not dealt with previous trauma on top of this trauma, into my adulthood. Fortunately, of course, I didn't succeed. I didn't go completely through with it and I'm still here. And I thank God today that, God had given me this chance, to still be here and to tell my story because, had things gone the other way and, I had succeeded in taking my life, no one would have ever known the real reason why I felt the way that I had felt. I would have just died with that secret, you know. But I'm just very glad that I was given the opportunity and, when it felt right, because it's not like someone could force you to tell them what happened. Because, and even with the kids that I work with, I realized that also there were some kids you just have to, I would just pray for them because, you know, no matter how much counseling they get, if they don't trust, if they don't trust the person, there are some kids who it may take them into their adulthood to really open up and tell what happened, you know, because like I said, it's suppression, it's, shame, it's a lot of emotions all in one. So until it comes out, that's when I feel that the healing really happened, and that's when you get your closure. So to answer your question, yes, everybody needs to seek some kind of therapy, whatever it may be. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, like, but you gotta let it out. You gotta let it out because the more you keep it in, it's like, a cancer. It's not going away until you physically remove it out. Just ignoring it and putting a band-aid on it is not going to make it go away. Even if you feel fine, the cancer is still there.
Right. But I agree with one thing you also pinpointed. You said that family, right? Family, friends, building a support system also is another way to outlet, right? Building a support system is a great way to help deal with trauma because it's another outlet and it's another way to build yourself up and your self esteem.
Mhm.
Having a strong support system. You need to have a strong support system. If you do not have a strong support system, start building one up. Join a support group. Join a church. Start building a support system. There's a lot of support system out there. You just have to start coming out a little bit more. For those who have anxiety, who's dealing with anxiety, who feel alone, it's time to stop feeling alone and start coming out a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. If you don't want to come out, start going on virtually and start joining a little bit and just start looking at the church. It's a lot of virtual groups. You don't even have to come in physically anymore. It's a lot of virtual.
Mhm. Yep, yep.
But I just want to I also want to also take the time to thank Sister Saundra for because I think we are almost out of time if I'm not mistaken, right, Shirley?
Yes, we are. Um, I just want to say one quick thing. Through this whole thing, I have heard her story before. Through this whole thing, the one part I don't think last time I heard her story that she had mentioned was her turning point. That stood out to me because um I personally I have not been through a that sort of traumatic experience. However, I am in the medical field and I do study it, and most of the time when somebody have been through the sort of traumatic experience that she's been through, they see males as the enemy, and it turned out
Mhm.
that it was a male teacher who who helped her through her turning point. So that really stood out to me, that I see God's hands in this, because most people would have been like, oh no, he's the male. Automatically, he would have been written off as if, he's the enemy. We don't
Mhm.
trust males. We don't, period. Doesn't matter what you say, how you say it, how sweet you say it, how you are towards me, you're a male. That's the only defying um thing about you, because you're a male and we don't trust males. That's what stood out to
Mhm.
me in the whole process, in her, mainly stood out to me in her testimony. And I see God's hand in it, because when you think about it, God always go through a way that no one would actually really think of. You would think a female teacher, or somebody who's going through the same thing as her, who touched her a certain way, who spoke to her a certain way, who she can, you know, have something in common with, they have something in mutual connection, that would be the turning point for her. But no, it wasn't. It was a male teacher, which, like I said, is one of the most stood out things to me. I don't know if anybody else noticed it or felt the same way, but I was I was blessed through
I'm
it.
just really happy that she found some, like, there was someone in her life that, that she drew to, that's able to build that support system. The male thing, I was like, okay, it wasn't a big surprise, but I wasn't really shocked because the male figure, the father figure. So I was a little like, okay, great. That did bring up the connection. The male figure was like the father figure to her, which she needed. So that did bring a connection for me. But I really want to say thank you, Sister Sandra, because she came to the platform and she was able to tell her story, which is, really difficult for a lot of people to share their testimony, which was which is a very, very powerful testimony. Um, but when you're talking about trauma, it's not an easy testimony to tell. When you talk about over overcoming trauma, it's still not an easy testimony. Even though you overcame it, it's still not easy to talk about it. So I want to thank Sister Sandra for coming onto this platform to talk about it. Hopefully she could come, if possible, maybe next week, to be part of part two, so we could talk further about what coping skills is the best coping skills for those who continue to struggle with their trauma, and educate those um who are dealing with their trauma, and how they can overcome it, and different mechanism and different support system that they can join. I want to provide lists of resources as well, but I will provide that next week. So when they join in, they will all have that. Sister Shirley?
Yes. So the second part is actually March 19th. We're doing them a month apart.
Oh,
Um,
sorry, March 19th.
yes, it's actually March 19th. We're doing them a month apart to give people time to think of questions. We will have a different guest speaker. If you still have questions for Sister Sandra, of course, we can take down the questions as well, and she can answer them to the best of her capabilities. To those of you, for those of you who will be watching this later, because obviously this is a live program, and so yes, so one, I would personally also like to thank Sister Sandra, who when I came to her and asked her to join us, and she did not, she said she just replied, I would love to. And I was expecting some pushback, because not a lot of people want to talk about something traumatic that they've been through, especially not live on any form of any platform of social media. And her response was, I would love to. So I, once again, I thank her for being willing and open to speak about something so traumatic that she's been through.
Well, it was my pleasure, and and to speak about that. Um, I really believe that until you're completely healed, it's not something that's very easy for you to speak about. Even when you are healed from it, it's not easy.
Hmm.
But I appreciate that you had asked me, because if you had asked me maybe 10 years ago, I would have said, no, I'm not going to do that. So, I'm very grateful to have been here. So if anyone has any questions, I'm open to answering them.
All right. Now Sister Marie's just gonna jump on to just give us the final remarks and closing.
Hi, everybody. I hope you were as much in awe as I was by Sister Sandra's powerful testimony. I know I was moved, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys were also. To reiterate on what Sister Shelling said, if you have any questions, please write it down in the comments, or you can also send us a personal message if you need to get in touch with Sister Clavia, or if you would like to talk to Sister Sandra, we could always try to help. To maybe, if maybe something in her testimony touched you and you would like to talk to her, or Sister Clavia, we can help get that connection for you. Also, like Sister Shelly said, our next forum is March 19th. There will be a flyer up by the 1st of March to let you to get you guys to remember about the event that's coming up. If you have any questions that you would like to send us firsthand before the next forum, we can also take those down. The flyer will be up on our Instagram page, which is Ebenezer underscore outreach. Again, that's Ebenezer underscore outreach. And of course, our Facebook like page, which is the Ebenezer Outreach Program. We can be reached on all of those. Also, you can reach us on the Ebenezer Nation website, which is ebenezernation.org. We have a link, the outreach link, that you can send us a message on that link. Also, if you want to give a donation, you can do that on the website, or if you would like to maybe volunteer with us, you can also send us a message. And in our next ventures, or maybe you have a personal testimony and you would like to say it, or you like to tell us about it, and you would like to be on our next forum, please message us. We would love to communicate with you guys. We would love to collaborate with you guys if you have anything that you would like to say. Again, thank you so much for every single person who has tuned in to this live. It's very personal, and I know that for some people it brings up a lot of feelings and emotions. And like I said, this is an open discussion. Comment, share, tell us how you feel. If you don't want to do it on the section, send us a personal message. We would love to hear from you guys. Um, and that's all I have for you. And to end out, we always end out in a prayer. So, Sister Shelleen, if you want to close us
Oh,
out
they
with a
got
prayer,
you.
that would be great.
Yes, thank you, Sister Marie. I will be praying us out. Thank you for every. I just want to thank each of us who joined today, including Sister Clavia. Thank you so much, our social worker. She's amazing. And Sister Saundra, thank you so much for being open and willing to share your story. Um, and Sister Marie, our vice president, thank you. Um, if you like the flyer for this event, she hooked it up. She did her thing. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for joining us and for always being willing and available as well. We're gonna pray us out. I'm gonna pray us out, and we are still taking questions even after this live. I'm gonna try my best to. I'm gonna be looking through the comments as they come through, and if you have questions, concerns, comments, you need resources, I will definitely put those out or reach out to you or send you a private message. However you reached out to me, connect you with Sister Clavia, our social worker. Anything, any way or form that we can help you. If you're going through something and you didn't want to post it on live, we understand. You want to send us a private message to the outreach Facebook page. It is checked regularly. It goes directly to my phone. um, Also Sister Marie's phone, so both of us are checking it. If you have any questions, concerns, or just need someone to listen, or just need our services, like Sister Marie says, volunteering or any form, just please do reach out to us either through our Facebook or go on our webpage, the ebenezernation.org. At the bottom, scroll to the bottom, you'll see Outreach Ministries. We do have a page where you can comment questions, like Sister Marie says. So thank you so much once again for joining us. We love you. We care about you. We care about your mental health. Please do take it seriously. Don't wait till it's too late. Speak to someone, reach out to someone. Once again, thank you. Please bow your head. We're going to pray us out. Father God, I thank you for allowing us to have this program. And I know nothing happens in vain. If it was for just one person who needed to hear Sister Sandra's testimony, one person who needed to hear that there is hope out there, that there is help out there. And I thank you for allowing us to be the vessel that you use to reach out to that person. And I thank you for allowing us to be available and willing to be used by you to be a source, to outsource. means for someone to get help. And I ask that you please continue to use us, continue to bless us, each and every one of us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you and have an amazing night, everyone. Once again, please continue to comment. If you'd like to donate, Sister Maria already told you, but you could also visit our webpage and just reach out to us. Thank you so much. We love you, and please continue to pray for us as we will continue to pray for you.
Bye.